This is Capital Games. I'm the Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
Zero. Zero. I don't have anything to talk about today. It's kind of a dead news day, and there really isn't anything to talk about. Do you have something to talk about?
Yeah, I think really the fact of the matter is there's a bit of a lull before the storm since Capcom has a presentation tomorrow showing off some of their upcoming games this year, and they did confirm that they will be talking more about Resident Evil 4 because it's sort of a rush to the launch, basically, and they'll be talking more about the Mega Man Battle Network collection that's coming out later this year. So I think that's probably why it's been a little bit of a dead news week. So there's that. But in light of it being a dead news week, I have a question for you.
You took my line. Okay, let's do this.
Earlier this week, Bethesda and Arcane had announced that Redfall will have crossplay between the Xbox, PC Game Pass, / Windows Store, Steam, and Epic Game Store versions. And one of the things that came up during this announcement on social media were people asking Arcane once again, hey, is the requirement for an internet connection to the master server for single players still a thing? Because this seems kind of like a bit of a terrible requirement to have for a single player game. And Arcane's social media team once again confirmed, hey, yes, this game will require you to have an internet connection active in order to play it because it will talk to a central server. And of course, this soured anyone who's kind of on the fence and hoping that maybe Arcane might change their approach on this. And then, of course, additionally, we also have the open beta for Diablo 4 coming soon. I believe it's the week of the 13th through 17th for anyone who has pre-ordered the game, and then the week after for everyone else who has chosen not to pre-order the game, where they blow the doors wide open for everyone to play. And I have a hunch that much like Diablo 3, where that one did require a connection to a master server to play even the single player campaign of Diablo 3, I suspect Diablo 4 is going to have very much the same requirement. So with that prelude out of the way, my question is, do you think that we are just doomed to a always online live service hellscape with the future of gaming, especially with more and more games using a master server sort of system, even for single player? I know it's a bit of a somewhat dramatic question, but
it's a loaded question.
I know that too, but I do know that there's a lot of people starting to get more and more concerned that with games going this way, that there's really going to be no way to preserve these games for just future study and enjoyment.
The future hellscape thing is where I'm like, that's kind of loaded, but I think I get what you're saying. Here's my thought on this. This is going to be something that will be a constant thing for the remainder of time that gaming is a thing, which I think is going to be a very long time. I think live service games are just going to be part of this industry. And the reason why is because it's a way for a company to not only keep a game monetizable, because with those live services, there is bound to be other things such as microcurrencies and things that you have to buy in their shop. It's also a way to protect themselves from bad actors who want to pirate the game, copy the game, do cheats on the game, and having it that way so people... Because if you remember in, let's say, Call of Duty, when after a certain point in time, people would crack the game and they were able to run cheats on it online, rendering the game completely unplayable for people who don't have cheat systems. This is a way for them to protect themselves from that happening. It still does happen to a certain extent, but not as much as it used to. So as long as there's that protection there, more companies are going to go this route. However, Do I think this is going to be the big thing that everyone does? Not really. I think for the next few years, you're going to have more things like Marvel's Avengers and Babylon's Fall, where they're games that don't need to be live services, but for some reason it's shoehorned into one, and those games will fail, and they'll shut down and die off, and companies will start learning lessons that only certain types of games should only have these live service designations. Like, for example, would it be a good idea to make a JRPG like, I don't know, Dragon Quest, a live service game? If they made a live service Dragon Quest game that is only single player, would that be, like, if Dragon Quest 12, live service, would that be a good idea?
Honestly, I don't think it would be.
Yeah. And it's going to take somebody, it's probably going to take a company to either make that mistake and then have to shut down that game and lose all the potential money making they could have had by doing it, or someone making a great idea to make that a thing. And that's what generally is going to happen. I mean, look, like I mentioned, Avengers, Babylon's Fall. We can talk about Lawbreakers, like things like that. People are going to try different things, and most of them are going to fail. I think in the next couple of years you might see it more, but in the far-flung future, let's say 5 or 10 years, I don't think we're going to have a Mario game as a live service. I don't think we're going to have a Metroid game as a live service. I don't think we're going to have, I don't know. The types of games that we're interested in and we like, I don't see everything becoming a live service. There are going to be certain types of games that will benefit from that live service model. Like, for example, like Destiny. Like, Destiny is built to the ground up to be a live service, and that makes sense. I think what will happen is the ones that don't make sense of live services will go away, and then just those certain types of games will get made. But if that's all you're interested in, then yeah, it's gonna be kind of shitty. On the other hand, it just really depends on the game, because that's what the market does. The market takes the ideas that people make, and it competes with everybody else. And then when some things succeed, some things fail, and as long as they fail, they won't happen again. That's how I look at it. So I'm not too worried about it being a dystopian hellscape of gobbledygook that is a live service, like everything's a live service, because not every game can be a live service. It just can't. It would make no sense. But for the most part, I think some companies will specialize in it. Others will say, well, we're more single-player focused. Others will say, well, we're more multiplayer peer-to-peer focused. We don't need it to be this. I don't see this being that big of a problem. I think there will be a couple of years where companies will try, and then they'll fail, and then everyone will learn from those failures and move on to something else or figure out what they want.
I'm kind of the same mind that right now there is a lot of fascination over live services because every other company is kind of eyeing things like Fortnite, Call of Duty Warzone, and things of that nature where they just see, oh wow, this is a live service and look at all the money they're raking in. Hey, we gotta, try to get in on this live service thing, and if we get in on it, then bam, the chances of us really raking in the cash is going to be awesome. And of course, much like you mentioned, there will be companies that will try to shoehorn this concept into a game that really doesn't necessarily need it, and then in some cases the game goes bust, and it's a hard lesson for the developer and possibly the publisher on, hey, maybe you guys should actually slow your roll, try to do the research, and even make sure if the live service model works. And one of the examples you mentioned was Babylon's Fall, which I can't believe it was almost a little over a year ago. But yeah, just that was something that I remembered when it was when the initial announcement and the initial trailer was shown off. I was like, okay, that seems cool, especially just I like the whole co-op thing. And then when they made the more detailed announcement saying, hey, by the way, it's a live service game, it was just like, oh, God, really, guys? Did we really have to go the live services route? This could have been, just something that was single player that had a multiplayer lobby element to it, but oh god, live service. Oh god, this I don't really have good vibes on this thing.
Right.
And then of course here we are a little over a year later. The game has gone bust and the servers have since closed, and I imagine this was probably a very hard lesson for Platinum Games because they were the developers on this, but at the same time, I know Platinum still has their Project GG, which is being spearheaded by Hideki Kamiya. I believe the current CEO, Atsushi Inaba, has made allusions that the game will still be a live service product. So I know it personally has me a little bit on the skeptical side of just how things are going to pan out, because with the failure of Babylon's Fall, I'm just like, Platinum, are you really sure you want to get into this whole live service thing? Because just Babylon's Fall was pretty bad, guys.
I mean, in regards to Platinum Games, they were very much an A team, B team type of publisher, and it just so happens that their A team is constantly working on things with Nintendo, and that's basically what it is. And everything from their B team does their games are a noticeable dip in quality. Let's talk about Legend of Korra. Let's talk about, I don't know. Let's talk about Babylon's Fall. It just seems like there is a distinctive dip in what they do when it comes to quality in their cases. But even if it was the A team that was doing Babylon's Fall, I don't think I would want a Bayonetta multiplayer live service character action game. I just don't think that would work. It would be more something along the lines of a Honkai Impact 3rd, which is a character action game, but the multiplayer stuff is kind of amorphous. It's there, but it's not a big deal on that. And yep. I think with Honkai Impact 3rd, there's only really room for one type of that game. And that's another thing the market is going to have to dictate when it comes to these things. I mean, you would think Marvel's Avengers would probably be the game that would have done that, but no, it didn't. Like, Marvel's Avengers was not successful in that end. I find it funny that something like Honkai Impact 3rd has more staying power than Marvel's Avengers. That I find funny, but let's go into the basic question, which is about Redfall. When it comes to it being a live service, is it really that big of a deal? Here's why I'm asking. Okay, the game is designed to be a 4-player cooperative game, and you're doing all these things in a group. And as the old adage is, everything's better in co-op. What exactly is the big deal of it being a live service if the main thrust of the game is to play cooperatively? I know you can play it single player, but if the main point of the game is to play a cooperative game with other people where you can level up and you can synergize and do all this, is it a little weird to complain that it's not offering something, is not inherent focus?
I definitely see thought process behind the question and everything, and my answer would be it depends, mostly because I think the concern is maybe potentially Redfall ends up being super beloved or something. Okay. And like what we've seen with all live service games, eventually they all do come to an end.
Right.
And when they do, when that day comes, typically the first thing to disappear are the servers. Just the servers go, and then if the game had a framework that tied your game to a save file that was saved on the server, then essentially when the servers go belly up, then that means your save game goes too. And if Redfall in a hypothetical scenario ends up being a very beloved game, then it is a bit of a bummer, because that means, well, game's gone and there's no way to play it. So, I mean, I definitely kind of get the concern where some people have of, just, this is a game I'd like to be able to play forever and ever and ever. And who knows? I mean, we could have a situation kind of like what we're seeing with Knockout City, which is where Development Studios actually has announced that the PC version will actually have the ability to allow PC players to run their own servers after the game is completely shut down from Valen Games and EA, and potentially players will be able to host their own servers and just continue playing Knockout City in perpetuity. So there's always that, but typically those cases are very rare and few and far between due to middleware that is usually licensed for the developer to use, but not for the general public.
Not only middleware, but an IP that could still make money for that company. Because if you are a company who's shutting down a game, but that IP is still valuable, you don't want to give that IP away for free. So there's that part as well.
But yeah, I think that's where some people have concerns with it. And again, I understand, because there are some games in my past that I wish were still around that I would love to be able to play again, but just due to the fact that they're live service games and they don't exist anymore, there's honestly no way to play them. Or there might be a way to play them, but it's private servers with very arbitrary rules, and sometimes those arbitrary rules aren't really great. Like, I remember before World of Warcraft Classic came out, and people were kind of upset with the way that World of Warcraft was moving. Some people ended up setting up their own private servers, of course, to kind of incentivize people to support the private server framework. Some of these people ran like little donation campaigns going, oh, well, it takes us a lot of effort to run private servers for World of Warcraft, so if you value this, then you can donate, and if you donate, you get these sweet powers that nobody else gets. And of course, it was like really OP shit.
I also have an issue with what you're saying as well when it comes to preserving games, because yes, would it be nice if these companies would preserve their games and their code so you can play them later on down the road? Yes, I would like that. But they don't see the point in doing that. Okay?
Yeah.
And I think that's a bad move, but that's their thing. But let's also be fair here. That's what the gaming mentality is ad nauseum, except for a specific niche of people who are into gaming called retro gaming. That they are okay playing old games on old hardware. The vast majority of people play video games do not care about that. They just don't. You can tell them, like, you can say, oh man, you remember how it was like to play Call of Duty Modern Warfare? Like, oh yeah, that was great. But I have Modern Warfare 2 on Xbox Series X. Why would I go back to that? People don't have that, most people don't have that nostalgia for games that way, to want to go back to the old thing. I mean, let's look at Destiny and Destiny 2, for example. If Destiny 1 were to shut down, do you think people would care? I don't think they would. I think you would have the people who goes, oh, we need to preserve gaming, and this, like, okay, fine. But then on the other hand, what's the incentive for the company to keep those servers running when no one's playing them? At that point, I'd be like, well, yeah, of course you're shutting it down. No one else is playing it. That I understand completely. Destiny is something that I think was designed to be a live service game, and you go in knowing that at that point. So
yeah,
at that point, like, if you're going in knowing it's a live service game, you have to have the mentality of the fact that this is all going to go away at some point. Or if the game is successful enough, when they do the sequel, they'll just bring your progress right back into the new game, such as Overwatch. Overwatch did that. They shut down 1, they put up 2, and then all your stuff is there. That I don't see as much of a problem. I know some people are like, oh, I want to play Overwatch 1 Classic, but it's not there. It's like, what do you want? Like,
yeah.
But,
and I guess for me, the way I see it is, I understand the sentimentality. People shouldn't really have too much sentimental attachment with like digital live services and stuff, but I get it. I mean, the time investment, building your character, doing really cool shit. I mean, I get it.
Right.
It's a lot of time that you've invested in your character, the storylines that you played and everything. And yeah, I get it, but much like you, just I think a lot of people really should look at things in the perspective of hey, it is a live service. Things could disappear overnight, and
Right.
You shouldn't get too attached to things, because if things do vanish overnight, then I mean, it's gone. There's no saving it unless some company decides to go through all the crazy legal work to make sure that a game could end up having the code open sourced out for servers or things like that, kind of like what we're seeing with Knockout City and everything. But the Knockout City case is exceedingly rare.
Right. And another example is a game that I have been very much into for years now. That is probably going to go down at the end of this year, and it's Gwent. Gwent made an announcement that they are no longer doing anything new after the end of this year, and they're doing this thing called Gwentfinity, which is where they give the people who are playing Gwent the means to actually play Gwent on their own in this, and do updates if they want to on that end. Which, fine, but I spent a lot of money on that game, and am I sad that it's possibly not getting new updates? Sure, I am sad. That sucks. But I also do understand that there's a business aspect to this. That if it's not making money, there is no point for them to spend the resources to continue running the game and to continue making it run. If no one's playing the game, if no one's putting money into the game, do you really expect these developers to then go on and say, well, we have to keep it up and pay the costs in perpetuity? No, I don't think that. Unless you want to give them a monthly subscription, then at that case, fine. Then they would have to, because you're giving them money. In the end, if it's not making money and it's not got a lot of players in it that are playing the game, I don't see the point of keeping it up, other than for me to say, yeah, maybe once every couple of years I have the nostalgia to come back to it and see if it's running. Go, oh yeah, it's still running. Okay, still the same game. Bye. And that's it. I think this is more along the lines of, and I think this is gamers in general now. I don't think this is much of an issue with movies and with TV shows and all that, but this is specifically gamers. Gaming is an expensive hobby, and as much as a lot of gamers keep saying to themselves, I don't care how much money a game is worth, I just want a good game. And whenever I hear that, I keep saying that is such bullshit. Because if a game was $100 and it had the length of Flower, you would be pissed. Even though Flower is a good game, you would not want to spend $100 on Flower. I think gamers just have to start realizing that with your money, you have to be much more diligent with what you're spending. And a lot of gamers are like, well, it's $70, what I'm going to do? Not pay for it! Don't pay for it! If the price is that prohibitive to you, and you're balking at the fact that it's X amount of money, or the live service thing is X amount of month, or you have to spend X amount of money to do all this stuff, don't spend the money. and that's what gets people attached to these games. They spend and spend and spend and spend. That's what gets them most attached to it. Because if it was just a great game and it got shut down, yeah, they would be sad. But then they got all those hours of enjoyment, and they'd be like, you know what, for $60 and you give me 200, 300, 4 hours worth of enjoyment, it's sad, but oh well. You wouldn't have these people being so pissed if they spent so much money, and gamers just need to start turning around and going, no, make it worth my while to spend that cash. And if they don't spend it. I think this is more of a gamer thing in the end than it is of a developer. Well, the developers, when it comes to making live services, there's just certain games that shouldn't be live services. But I think this is more gamers eating the propaganda and eating the stuff that companies and journalists have given them by saying you have to support the developers. If you love these games, you have to spend $70, $80, $90, $100 to support the developers. That is utter bullshit. If it ain't worth the money, don't spend it. That I think is the real issue here, is that people will spend $100, $200 on a special edition with all these goodies, and then the game fails and it shuts down and goes, well, what happened to my $200? You shouldn't have spent the money. It's like, that's the issue. Like,
I mean, it's a fair concern too, or rather not concern, but a fair thought, because I think you are right that some people get kind of emotionally wrapped up in how much money they dropped into a game, that it becomes almost like a sunk cost fallacy sort of issue.
Right.
Where they're just like, well, shit, I spent $100 on this game. I love this game, and I'm upset that they're shutting it down. What can I do to try to find a way to be able to play this game? Because I don't want this game to go away. Mm-hmm. But I mean, as we know, just everything has a time limit to it, because a developer is not going to just perpetually just keep a game going out of the kindness of their heart. I mean, ultimately, there is a profit motive. And just that's just the nature. It's just the nature of the game. And unfortunately, just some people just don't know how to divorce that mindset of, as long as you spend money and support the developer, then you can help the game continue. Help your favorite game continue on. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, just people kind of mistake that for, maybe if I spend a little harder, maybe I can get this game to, eke out a couple more years. And unfortunately, that's just not how the financial nitty-gritty behind the scenes works. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could be one of the biggest whales and end up throwing truckloads of money at a live service game, or maybe a game that could have been easily a single player experience, but they decide to shoehorn the whole live services aspect with a master server and stuff like that, kind of like what we saw with Babylon's Fall. Even if you're one of the biggest whales dumping a truckload of money, if they don't see that the game is turning a profit overall, then the company's just going to shut down the game. And I imagine that's probably what happened with Babylon's Fall. They probably had maybe a couple whales who really loved the game and just like, I love this. I want everything to do in this game. And then the announcement that, hey, we're closing the game because of, this flowery PR reason, but I'd put dollars to donuts that there was probably some sort of like financial report on the performance of the game, and there were some accountants going, okay, so how are we doing on Babylon's Fall? And someone did the math and just had said, we probably shouldn't run this anymore because it's literally a financial loser, and just if we keep running this, it's not going to do us any favors.
Mm-hmm. And what's funny with Babylon's Fall is wasn't there a point of a few months into its release that one person was playing it on Steam at one point?
Yeah, I think the metrics were absolutely awful. It was just I think it was just like, hey, there's only one player daily playing this, and it was just like, oh God, really?
If these live services weren't successful, companies wouldn't be doing them. But on top of that, if you're blindly spending the money, if you're getting the special editions without even wondering, is the game any good? Okay? That is on you. That is solely on you. Every year, I get the digital deluxe version of MLB The Show. Okay? Because it's a live service game. I think it's about $80 to get it. You get a whole bunch of cards, some more stubs, which is the currency in the game. You get all these special things in it. Why do I do that? Well, here's why I do that. I play it every day. I grind all the time on it. I play it all the time. And I want that extra leg up, and I get it 4 days early, okay, to go do that and do all that stuff. That's fun for me, and I like it. Would I prefer them to then go ahead and give me my inventory in perpetuity? Yes, I would like that. Are they going to do it? No. You see me complaining about it when they shut down the game? No. Why? Because I knew they were going to do it. I've known that in the back of my head. I know at some point, no matter how much money I spend on this game, I'm not going to have access to these cards. I'm just not. But then the other fact is that after a year, I'm not playing it anymore. And that's the other thing that infuriates me with these people who just complain all the time. Oh, game preservation. You're not playing the game. If you're not playing the game, why are you so pissed? Recognize the fact that you spent whatever money you did on that game, you got your money's worth, you stopped playing. You can't then be pissed after 5 years of not playing the game to then say, oh, they shouldn't shut that down. That's wrong. Like, you stopped playing. Why are you so pissed if you stop playing? Like, if you stop playing and the developer says, well, no one's playing, so it's not a good business for us to do it, we have to shut it down, it makes all the sense to me that they shut it down. I mean, at that point,
Yeah.
you know what you're getting into with this, okay? That's my thing with this. Yeah, I play live service games too, and I know in the back of my head, as soon as it's shut down, I lose everything. I was like, okay, well, then I gotta make a decision. Is my purchase gonna make it more fun to me to play this game while it's still running? If it's yes and it's worth it, I'll spend the money. If it's not and it's not worth it, I won't. People just have to make better purchasing decisions on this.
I think the question is more aimed for just games that have a single player element. And I think the concern is just the future of just games that single player games going to be one that requires an internet connection and everything.
No.
I think that's where a lot of people have concern. And again, I don't think it's as big a deal as people are making it seem, mostly due to the fact that just there will be some games that go bust, and when they do, it's going to be one of those hard lessons that they have to learn of, hey, maybe people don't really care for this game, and trying to shoehorn a live service in a game that doesn't need it is probably not a great idea to do. And then there's the other component of it of maybe it's probably a better idea to run this thing as like as a single player game without some sort of hokey live server required sort of thing, because like a great example of a game that I quite enjoyed, Dragon Quest XI. Enjoyed the hell out of it. Yeah, it was a formulaic JRPG, but thankfully there wasn't any sort of like weird live service requirement saying, hey, you have to be connected to the server in order to play the game. Yeah, you can play the game single player, but we also have this co-op mode in Dragon Quest XI. And I think that's where the concern is. And especially with Redfall, because it's one of those, like you said, it's better with other players, but as with all things, they did mention, but if you choose to go at it single player, you totally can. And again, I think that's nice of them to do that. It's not something like Back 4 Blood. Yeah, it is totally a single or it's a multiplayer centric game. Sure, you can play it single player, but it's not going to be as good as playing it with other people.
Right.
Again, as said, I think that's where the concern that people have right now is with Redfall. Okay, well, you guys said that you can play it single player. Why do we have to connect to a server to play it single player?
I'm gonna guess why. Okay, my guess is in order for you to get, let's say, I don't know all the systems in Redfall, but I'm gonna bet that there is a mechanic where when you finish missions, you get some sort of currency or scrap or whatever, and this game allows you to, whenever you do any mission, to get that scrap or currency or whatever in this. If you were to have a single player mode where you would section that off where it's just single player, there is a way for people to go ahead and hack that to then run a program where you can get all the currency from that program in the single player and bring it onto the multiplayer to get all that stuff. I think that's why they're doing that. In that case, and if that's the case of what they're doing, then it makes sense in that end. I think that might be the reason as to what it is. Like, they're allowing you to earn that currency while doing single player, but in order to do that, we need to make sure that you're not doing anything shady. So we need to make it a live service game, which to me makes sense. I have no problem with that. But your example, and I think your example of Dragon Quest XI, that was a live service thing. But that's what I was talking about before. People are going to make those mistakes making live service games into something that it shouldn't be. They're going to make those mistakes. It's going to fail, and then people are not going to try that again. I also think in the thing with Dragon Quest, okay, unless they remake 9, and if they remake 9 to a live service, I wouldn't be against that. Like, 9 is a specific type of game where if they made that into a live service, I think that could work. But I think the people behind Dragon Quest, if a money manager or a president would go, we want a live service, make 12 a live service Dragon Quest, I think the people behind those games would say no. I think there was we can't do that. That's not going to work. You want to make a separate game that's a live service Dragon Quest? Great, go ahead. But 12 can't be that. I think that's what would happen in that end. So, like I said, if the president of Nintendo were to go up to Shigeru Miyamoto, whoever's doing Mario nowadays, and go, we want a live service Mario game, I could see Shigeru Miyamoto flipping 2 birds and go, yeah, go fuck yourself, outing and just getting out of there and going, I ain't doing that. That's stupid. Like, there's just certain games that are not going to fit that mode. And most smart developers are going to realize that and not attempt that. There will be ones who make the mistake. Like, let's say if Konami does a Castlevania that's a live service, that would be incredibly dumb. But I can see Konami doing that. But like I said, all will happen is it will release, it will fail, and then other developers will look at it and go, well, can't do that. and that's it. It is okay for them to make mistakes. Let them make the mistakes and it will happen. I just don't think it's going to be this barren wasteland that everything is going to be a live service, and in order to play any game, you have to devote your entire life to play it. I don't think that's the case. Because we've been saying that for how long now? Is it 5, 6, 7 years? And has that been the case? No. What are the more popular games that make the most money? I don't know. Stardew Valley. Let's look at a bunch of other indie games along those lines. Like Hades, for example. Like, there are games that aren't live services that become very popular and make a lot of money. We're not going into that. I don't think it's going to happen. I think some developers will make those mistakes and will try something and fail. Or hell, I'll even put it this way. I'll bet money there are developers who have tried this and got to a certain point and realized this isn't going to work and scrapped the entire game entirely. I think the question of, is this going to be a hellscape of live services? No, it's not. I don't think it is. Now, do I think maybe the bigger franchises are going to try it? Yes, I do. I think that is what's going to happen in this one. But then that's up to gamers to then go ahead and go, okay, let me try these other types of games. But if all you're interested in are, let's say, first-person shooters and stuff like that, then yeah, you might be in a little bit of pain in this, and you might not like where it's going. But then that's why you diversify what you're playing. Like, this is with me in movies, in a certain case. I can't, and this is with gamers, movies, and everything. I can't stand when people say, man, games suck these days, there's nothing to play. It's like, well, stop playing the same fucking game. Play something different. Try something different. Watch something different. Give something else a chance. Like, if you're not doing that, then yeah, of course it's gonna feel like nothing's there because you're playing the same fucking things. Just try something different at that point. Yeah, like, I think, honestly, first-person shooters are probably gonna be the one thing that's gonna be a live service more than anything else. I think, at this point.
Yeah, especially with just the focus on multiplayer being the big driver of revenue for a lot of first-person shooter games. I mean, Warzone's kind of proving to that point, especially with just things like the costumes, the special skins that you can use for your character to skin them to be like a completely different character or something.
If the Hellscape were to happen, it would have happened by now, I think. And of the games that have been live services and just didn't fit well as a live service, they failed. And that's it. That's all there is to it. It failed. I just don't see what people get bent out of shape about this. I understand the thing of wanting to preserve games, but I have to mention as well, if the company that makes the game doesn't want to preserve it, then what are you going to do at that point? At that point, I'd be like, oh well. I mean, the people who make the games don't care. I mean, how many... Okay, here's another question for you. I know we're going along here. Here's another question, Zero. How many reports have we heard of game developers, the people who take the time to create these games, who then take that code that they made, overwrite the code to put another game on top of it? How many times have we heard those things happening?
Countless times over the years.
Yeah. So if the people who create the games don't give a shit about it being preserved, what does that tell you? This is a medium that I think actively, except for a small subset of people, actively look at the past and go, we're moving on from it. It's done. We don't look back. Keep moving forward. Move on. That's what they do in this. This is where games are much different than film, books, and music. Because film, music, and books constantly pay reverence to the past by referencing the past, by doing things that pay homage to the past and respect the past and preserve the past of all the movies and music and books, like and all that. Like, how many times has, I don't know, Fahrenheit 451 been sold? How about books from the 18th, like the Sherlock Holmes books? How long have they been sold? For how long? Hundreds of years. Okay? If the creators don't give a shit, maybe you shouldn't either. That's how I look at it at this point.
I don't really think single player wise, it's just going to be just a hellscape of just constantly online connected games. Yep. But I mean, at the same time, I do understand the concern.
I do too.
Because I know some people gripe about that sort of stuff, and they're just like, oh god, just especially now with just the talk of Redfall. You know, really want to play Redfall, but the fact that the game requires a server to connect and everything, yuck. Though at the counterpoint, the counterpoint that I have is, okay. I remember back when Diablo 3 was on the cusp of coming out.
Yes.
And Blizzard had came out and said, hey, due to how we have configured this game, it will require you to be online, and it will require you to connect to a master server, and you know, there's just no way around it. And I remember just there was a huge kerfuffle about it, and some people went as far as like threatening boycotts and stuff on it. They were just like I swear to God, just I am boycotting the shit out of Diablo 3 because fuck this always online bull crap. It's a frickin' single player game. Who the fuck cares? And this was back when the game still had the real money auction house too.
Yeah.
So it was kind of one of those things of, yeah, I don't really think they're gonna want to allow any sort of way for people to muck around with the game files. So you end up with cheated and hacked items, completely ruining the economy of the real money transaction store, right? For the auction house. As it is with gamers, when they saw the allure of just how fun the game was, they just couldn't resist. They were just like, oh god, I can't say no. I gotta get this game. I gotta. And then of course, the Blizzard bean counters were like, hey, look, the game sold. Yay! Yeah.
We're gonna boycott, and then when it comes out, best-selling Diablo of all time. Oh wow, good job, guys. And I think that's also the thing with gamers as well. They are probably the worst when it comes to impulse control. Like if they really feel the way they do about something, they would just not play the game. But it very rarely happens that way. Like it just is. Anything more to add on, or maybe you should be asking me this since you posed the question. But anything more do you want to add to this argument that we're having?
Personally, I think we pretty much covered all the ground with regards to the discussion. I guess it's more just kind of putting it back to you. Do you have any final closing thoughts on this?
Like I said, I get why people are miffed that they can't just pop in a disc and play the game. I do get that to a certain extent. But let's also be fair here, okay? Can you go back and play Call of Duty 2 on Xbox 360 in multiplayer? No, you can't. You can only play the single player. So we've been dealing with having sections of games completely quarantined off when the servers go down for, I think, about 15, 20 years now? I mean, it's been that long, right? Like, can you
think
play,
so, yeah.
Can you play Mech Assault 2 multiplayer on Xbox? No, you can't. Do I hear complaints about that? No, I don't. That's all. Go ahead.
To be fair with Mech Assault, I think Mech Assault on the original Xbox still has the ability to play by LAN. So technically, if you have like a little cheaping $20 network switch, and you and your buddies brought your Xbox consoles together and your disc copies of Mech Assault, yeah, technically you could play it on LAN.
Okay, I'll give you it. I'll give you that. My thing with this is, okay, you know what it is going in. It is a live service game. It's always online. You know what the game is at this point and what the focus of the game is. What I don't, and these are probably the same people who complain about people that want Elden Ring to be easier and then say to them, no, that's the essence of the game. You're going to ruin the game if you do that. And I actually agree with that. You don't want to make that game easier. But on the same time, these same people will then turn around and go, why won't you make it this way for me? Like, no, it's not for you then. It's just not for you then.
Yep. And ultimately, that's what gamers should realize, that not every game is made for you.
Yes.
And that's perfectly fine. I mean, kind of to bring relevance to the movie podcast, I mean, sometimes, like, when we try to pick a movie for the movie podcast, sometimes we get into a discussion and say, hey, how about we watch this? And then when it comes down to a genre, it's like, oh, that's a body horror film? Yeah. Oh, no. We cannot do that.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, and I think that's something that it's something that I hate in modern day gaming culture as well too, because of course, there'll be a game that comes out, and then of course, all the online rags and all the YouTube reviewing pundits will say, yeah, if you're a gamer, you must play this game. And then of course, I mean, great example, like you mentioned last year, Elden Ring. Mm-hmm. Just, you had people both on like review sites, you had YouTube reviewers who were putting out videos going, oh my god, Elden Ring is the best game ever. Right. And then of course you've got people who probably have never played a very, very structured adventure game, just trying to get into these, and then of course they're kind of dying left and right because it's not like God of War Ragnarok where you can just kind of spam a button and get through fights and everything. And some of these people who aren't used to having to completely rethink their approach on a game, they end up playing this and they go, God, this game stinks. I hate this. I don't feel powerful. This sucks. And then, of course, at the same time, they hear like some of their friends who are just raving about this game going, oh my God, this is the best game ever. Whoever thinks that this game sucks, they're complete idiots. Mm-hmm. So it ends up kind of being like a prisoner's dilemma where they're just like, do I stick with this and, just stick with it? Or do I potentially get ridiculed because I just end up going, I think this game is too tough. I hate it. It sucks. And then get ridiculed by all my friends because they're just like, what are you, a freaking dumbass? This game is good. Just get good at the game, loser.
Oh yeah. That happened to me with Breath of the Wild. When I got my Switch and I got Breath of the Wild, I think I got Breath of the Wild, Fire Emblem Warriors, and I got Mario and Rabbids when the Switch came out. If you remember, everyone was raving about Breath of the Wild. Oh my God, it's this amazing game, this and that, da-da-da-da. I bought it knowing everybody I knew loved the game, but I also did not really like 3D Zeldas. I think the 2D Zeldas are the best. I've not really been a fan of the 3D ones, so I gave it a shot. After that, I played it. I was like, I don't like this. Like, I don't like the mechanics where the swords break. I don't like the stamina mechanic. And I don't like how unstructured it is, because now I'm completely lost. I don't know what to do. Unless I look at a fact, I don't know where I'm going. I'm not enjoying this. This is not fun for me. And what did I get? Oh my God, you're just bad at games. Oh God, you don't know what you're talking about. How could everyone be wrong and you be right, Wiz? I think you just don't know what good games are. Yeah, I got that all the time. Like, it was freaking annoying. And I think that's not only a problem with gamers and stuff, but it's also critics. Because critics, I think, have had it pretty easy. Because the only thing that gamers really care about when it comes to critics is, should I buy the game? That's all they want to hear. Should I buy the game? But if you get a more nuanced critic who'd go, hey, if you're into X, Y, or Z, this is really for your thing. This is really what you should be doing. I think that's how more reviews should be. If you're into X, definitely. If not, maybe not. And that. But gamers are conditioned to being, oh, what's the score? Is it a 9 or a 10? Oh, it's a 9? Must buy. Oh, it's an 8? I'm not buying. Not even putting into account that, wait a minute. Are you an RPG? Are you a first-person shooter fan? Are you this type of fan? Do you like these type of mechanics? No, it was like, I just tell me the score, damn it! Tell me the score! That's how people are conditioned nowadays. I think, and that's why I hate scores in any kind of criticism, because scores mean zero when it comes to an actual criticism of a game, movie, media, product, whatever. Scores don't matter. It's the context of what the critic thinks or the person says it is. I mean, to people who love 3D Zeldas, I bet Breath of the Wild is an amazing experience. For someone like me, not really. It's not. Yeah, we're going to go a little too long on this one. So, okay, we're going to end it here. Thank you for listening to this segment of Capital Games. On Friday, we are going to have our weekly dividend, and we're going to have a special announcement when that happens. So look forward to that. Until next time, this is Capital Games. I'm The Wiz.
And I'm Zero.
And we'll talk to you next time. Bye.